Are you willing to destroy everything that you worked for just because of your ego? Would you unknowingly self-sabotage yourself, knowing that you're self-sabotaging yourself through your ego? Probably not, right? The only person that can tear down everything you've built and make sure that it's not possible to build it back up again is you. In relation to building something, we all have that desire to be great, but the one killer to all of that is your ego, your pride. But on the flip side of that coin, once you gain absolute control over your ego, I promise you, you can accomplish nearly anything that you want. And I have a feeling that you want to build rather than destroy everything that your ego touches. So if that's the case, then let me explain how. Because if you're unaware of how your ego affects you and the ways that you can diminish it, then it's pretty much confirmed that it's gonna affect you. I'm done the hook, bro. Just listen up. Defense of the ego. Protecting yourself from others is a frequent reason for our behaviors, and we are highly motivated to shield the ego for so many reasons. The ego's instinct to protect itself can be reality-bending and can cause mass intellectual dishonesty and self-deception. What I just read was a passage out of this psychology book, and basically it just discusses human behavior. So thankfully it talks about the ego. To simplify this entire chapter in relation to the video that I'm making, on the inside, our ego is just a sensitive little kid. In order to feel a sense of protection from criticism, from anything that feels mildly uncomfortable, our ego will affect our mind in a sense where it'll bring it to a point where it manipulates itself and it lies to itself, lying to other people to save face. Having your ego is not an issue at all. The issue arises when you're allowing it to control yourself and it's protecting you too much. When the ego protects you too much, it comes out as insecurity, projection, and it makes you feel like you can't protect yourself. You have to let this little child inside of you protect yourself for you. Back to the video. I want to share a story of how my ego specifically affected me. I would say pretty recently, just to emphasize the point that if you're unaware of the way that your ego is affecting you, it's going to impact not only you but other people as well. My ego destroyed something that I've built for a long time, and it only happened because I was unaware of how it was going to impact me. A little bit ago, I kind of ruined a 2-year long friend group because of my ego specifically, because I felt like I was far too good to communicate at that point in time. And upon reflection, I realized that my ego convinced me that communication wasn't even worth my time, because I couldn't fathom the fact that anybody was challenging my imperfections. Whether I was right or wrong in the initial complication, my ego convinced me that I was far too good to communicate, and thus we never communicated. Like I said, was I right or wrong? Who knows? The point is that it took around 2 years to build that friend group, and it only took around 3 seconds to completely destroy it by simply not responding to one message. And I know that I could have easily soothed out the entire situation with one simple conversation, but my ego convinced me that, like I said, it wasn't worth my time. I chose not to, and at the time, I didn't feel it because my ego had control over me. I didn't feel bad until about 3 weeks later when my ego finally dimmed down and I realized, man, I was being stupid. Now look, my ego ruining things for me in the past, I can deal with to an extent because, like I said, it's only really affecting me. But this time it didn't just affect me. It affected some of my other friends who really had no business being a part of the situation. They were affected with a situation that honestly had nothing to do with them. And this entire 2-year friendship that we built was gone because I felt like I was too good to communicate. And this is just one example out of probably the billions that I have of my ego ruining things. This is just the one that I'm comfortable sharing with. But the ego is one thing that we're all going to have to battle at one point in time. And if you don't take control over it, it's going to take control over you. That story is scarily one of my minor examples of how that ego can affect you. So to get to the point, how? How does your ego ruin you? Every time that I think about this, I think about the fact that Rome was destroyed from the inside. It was destroyed internally. A perfect civilization that they've built that honestly probably would have been one of the best civilizations that history's ever seen, destroyed from the inside. Similar to how our ego affects us. We work so hard building certain things for ourselves. We work so hard on our future. We work so hard to create the life that we envisioned while we were younger. And a few thoughts internally that we never fully address. A few actions, a few moments where you feel like your pride is taking over. That's where it gets you. Your ego builds up those thoughts internally and thus manifests itself into that physical iteration where you don't make your best decisions. Your ego is in a sense a parasite that eats up at your rational thoughts, that makes you feel like you're not subject to growth. The ego makes people think that they are perfect, which I will continue to say, nobody's perfect. And if you ever for a second feel yourself getting to that point where it's like, oh, I'm too perfect to be taking advice from somebody that doesn't know as much as me, then you're already losing control of your mind because your ego is unfortunately taking control. You risk so much by following this ego. You risk so much by basing your actions off of this ego. Your entire future can be diminished in a singular second. No matter what you think you know, you can definitely know more, and you're impacting your future self because you're not giving them the opportunity to have that growth, because you're living your life as if you know every single thing that there is to it. The second we live our lives knowing that everybody is capable of learning all the same information, nobody necessarily has a leg up on anybody, then your ego loses control over you. Everybody has room to grow, and if you're not acknowledging this space to grow, then you're wasting that space. The benefits of not being controlled by your ego are actually really simple. You live like we're supposed to live. We don't know everything, and it's foolish to expect yourself to know everything. In the grand scheme of things, we literally know nothing, and the fact that we can all pretty much get to the same level of intellect just shows that we don't have a leg up on anybody. Our ego convinces us that we're better than certain people because we know more, when that same person can literally just learn the same information that we have. We're all people, we all know things, we all don't know things, and the second you acknowledge this, your ego takes a little bit of a hold off of you. And as soon as you acknowledge this, you're releasing that weight of the ego. And if none of that advice on your ego resonated with you, if nothing sticks, I hope this does. Think about other people before yourself. Before you make an action based off of your ego, think to yourself, how does this impact other people? How does this affect other people? If I would have thought that back in the story that I gave you guys earlier, I would have realized that a stupid argument wasn't worth affecting 4 other people. You being too stubborn to listen because you feel like you know a little more than that person not only affects that person because you're just belittling their intellect, but you're also affecting your future because you're not putting yourself in a position to grow. Think about other people before you think about yourself, and I promise you, your ego will start to lose its weight. If you like this video, make sure you come back for more. I'll be posting more videos like this consistently. And if you want to connect with me, I have an Instagram in the description below. Thank you guys for watching the video. See you guys next time.